In terms of our job as an auditor, we are here to express an opinion about the fair presentation of the financial statements. So what theory do we need to know in terms of how those financials are built? The first thing we're going to have to be very comfortable with as auditors is going to be IFRS, your International Financial Reporting Standards. If you are expressing an opinion about a topic, you're going to have to know something about that topic. So if we're expressing an opinion about financial statements, we're going to have to know how those financial statements should be put together. You can't check someone's maths homework unless you know what you're doing, unless you know maths yourself, the same as your accounting. You cannot go through a set of financial statements and check them, as it were, without knowing what they should look like to begin with. So you have to have a very comfortable knowledge of IFRS and a very comfortable knowledge of the client's financial reporting framework and how that works. Your auditing knowledge, we need to be very careful and we need to know exactly what it is that we as auditors are and are not allowed to do. We've got to be very careful that we understand how we're supposed to be doing our job. And our auditing knowledge comes from our International Standards of Auditing, our ISAs. And these provide the steps that we're going to be following. These provide the guidelines that we're going to be following for us to do our job. So we're going to be spending a lot more time on the ISAs. And we need to be sure that we follow our ethical requirements. As we've seen, those ethical requirements are extremely important, which means it follows us all the way through from start to finish. If we take a look at introduction to our auditing standards, our ISAs, these are international guidelines. It's very important to realize that they are international. It's not something that we as South Africans created ourselves. We basically have adopted the ISAs and said, when we do our audits in South Africa, we are going to use the ISAs as part of our audit. So your registered auditors, your RAs in South Africa, are bound to comply with your ISAs. In terms of our APA, remember, go back and take a look at your APA. When you look at your limitation of liability, how is it that we decide whether or not an auditor can be found to be negligent? We always say just because you express an inappropriate opinion or just because you get your opinion wrong doesn't necessarily mean that someone can sue you unless they can prove that you were negligent. And negligence in this case means that they can prove that you didn't follow the standards that you are bound to comply with. It covers the steps of the audit, any challenges, possible approaches, recommendations, objectives. It is extremely practical. So through your auditing studies, you're going to be spending a lot of time in your ISAs. I'm going to take you through the ones that you need to know for this level. I'm going to take you through the bits and pieces that you need to know. But as you go further through your studies, it's really important to understand that the textbook that tells you how you're supposed to be doing your job as an auditor is in the ISAs. It is the ISAs. So it is very practical compliance or guidance. And obviously, as we've said, your non-compliance does actually contravene what you're supposed to be doing, which means in terms of the APA, you will be in trouble. So your ISAs, we will be spending quite a lot of time on in auditing. In this particular process or in this particular level, we're not going to be going into a lot of detail about specific ISAs, and I'll take you through the ones that we need to know.